welcome to the Negotiation Society podcast Inside My Head with me, Jessie Lancaster, your host here in London. My guests today are Sarah Welsh and Farah Kabir, co-founders of Hanks, a sex-positive, good-looking, sustainable and gynae-backed sexual wellness brand. Farah and Sarah met when they attended the same sixth form school together, in chemistry class no less. Sarah is the middle of three sisters. Her mother was a practice nurse and her father worked in some big name brands, including Nestle, in the HR department. Farah, the youngest of her siblings, her father a restaurateur and her mother worked while also raising her four children. All of those children have gone on to be entrepreneurs. Sarah and Farah went on to live together at the University of Durham, Sarah following in her mother's footsteps and studying medicine, while Farah took on finance, although her dad would have loved for her to be a dentist. Sarah moved to Newcastle for her junior doctor years, but by 2014 had moved to London, only a year after Farah had done the same. Their careers flourished, with Sarah becoming a teaching fellow at Imperial College and Farah blazing a trail at Goldman Sachs. Sarah worked at the front line in hospitals and clinics for obstetrics and gynecology and saw the taboos, myths and challenges of this field of medicine play out in women's lives every day. Their conversations as friends, practitioners and, well, as women, led to the idea of Hanks in 2018. And here we are today, where they lead a brand that speaks to women, a brand led by expertise to drive sexual health and expert wellness. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the lovely introduction, Jessie. That was really nice.
No, well, it's lovely to have you here. We've got some lovely topics that we'd like to talk to you about today, obviously with the idea of negotiation and what's been going on in your world. So the first question I would like to ask you both is, what do you think makes the difference between a person that has a great idea and a successful entrepreneur, which I'm certain we can call you two ladies?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, look, there's so much, and you hear all the time people saying, I had that idea, or I could have done that, or I've got this idea, but, and no one ever really, a lot of the time, people don't go ahead with these ideas. So I think it's really a question. I think kind of embracing that unconventional path without hesitation is super key. For Farah and myself, we've never built a business before, but we have lots of experience in different areas that are really helpful in growing a business, building a business, understanding business. I think taking the leap and just being willing to learn from day one, getting stuck in absolutely everything that the business entails is super important. So yeah, I think it's the huge initial step is just taking the leap and actually putting everything into it, because a lot of people can talk the talk, but actually, physically launching and putting money where your mouth is, I guess, is super important.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I think also to add to that, calculating the risk. So there's lots of great ideas out there, but what is it about your idea that is different and that customers will buy into? And so doing the research in the industry also helps. And I think also, unconventional to say this, but a bit of naivety. I think that actually probably gave us a bit more gumption to go and try this idea, because we were young at the time and we thought, what have we really got to lose by trialing on this amazing idea that could change women's health? And it worked.
It definitely did. It's lovely to hear you say that. It's a combination of getting stuck in, bit of naivety thrown in for good measure, and kind of researching your market and calculating the risk. What do you think got you stuck in? Because you kind of had to take that leap. How did you take that leap?
I think, well, Farah and I actually, like you mentioned, Jessie, because we grew up together, we've known each other for a long time, and obviously went into respective careers with, very different career paths, very different skill sets. But we both were really passionate about changing the sexual wellness industry for the better, and we felt we could see so many flaws in the current brands and products out there, and the taboos in the space. There was just so much that we felt we could change for the better, from ingredients that were kind to women's bodies, to speaking in the right kind of language and being real and relatable as a brand, to the sustainability aspect of the products. So we got really excited about this idea and this brand and what we could do. So like Farah said, yeah, we researched the market. We surveyed over 2,000 people to understand, is there a need for a product like what we think there is a need for, and so much research, visiting manufacturers, putting our lab coats back on, and seeing different condom manufacturers to start with. So yeah, I think kind of taking the leap was being passionate about what we were building, understanding the market a little bit more detail, and realizing that actually ultimately to make a difference and to do what we need to do here, we have to be full-time in this and not working elsewhere or having it as a side hustle. It needs to be our full focus, and our kind of experience complements each other nicely, and we work really well together. We're very different in lots of ways, but very similar in many. And I think Farah's finance monkey, perfect, does everything. Spreadsheets, which is very helpful because that's not my forte. So our skill sets complement each other. So I think it helps too.
I think also, so Sarah is my work wife, friend, confidant. We're married, we're at the hip, but we have such different backgrounds. Sarah being at the forefront in the NHS, working as a gynae doctor. I was in high pressure environments and investment banking, but having that commercial background, like Sarah said, being pretty good on the Excel helped. Whilst having an expert like Sarah who can build out these amazing products that are truly endorsed medically and gynae backed. I think the complementary skill sets definitely helped.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's lovely to hear you describe that journey. You kind of started with that research, which brings us back to sort of where you met, in that chemistry class all the way back in sixth form. So you've got that kind of scientific background that links the two of you, that sort of says you wanted to get all of that research to get you to where you are now. And I love that you've got your work wife and confidant to take you along that journey. But there's no doubt that you've entered a market that, is dominated by huge brands. If you look at a brand like Durex, it's made by Reckitt, which has a revenue of 13 billion back in 2021. These are not small businesses. You've secured listings in Tesco, Boots, Sainsbury's. What would you say has been your biggest negotiation lesson when being, to put it mildly, the David versus the Goliath?
Yeah. I think we were so passionate and Solara about what we want to provide in women's health, and serving that as a purpose, and having that really drove home why we're different and why it's needed in the market. And ultimately, we started with condoms and lubricants. We know that over 40% of purchases of condoms are actually made by women, yet there haven't been any brands out there on the shelf that have represented women. So there's an opportunity here that we clearly identified. And I think in terms of the negotiation process, sharing those stats definitely helped, but going that one step beyond and sharing with the buyers that we know our market, because we are the women that we're targeting. And we've, as Sarah mentioned, we surveyed 2,000 women to really find out what they wanted in a brand and the products that we create. And so by sharing those insights and touch points about the consumer that larger brands can't ordinarily do very easily, I think that gave us a strong negotiation point with the retailers, and they could clearly see that we were offering something different and understood how to sell to our core consumer.
Yeah, and I think, the market was crying out for innovation in a taboo area that hadn't changed in decades. And because, like Farah said, we are our market, and we know what we're talking about, and we've got the kind of data and also customer feedback to back that up. The buyers would come to us to ask for insights into the market, and that's a really telling sign. I think also just being human with these people in the negotiations. A lot of the time they can also understand why there is a need for a product and a brand like ours. So kind of using that to our advantage as well.
Clearly you've got a product that is innovative, it's got its unique selling points. So when you go and you're in front of those buyers, I worked in buying for 10 years. I know that feeling when you see a product and you think, wow, these guys have really thought about it. They understand their market, and it's great when somebody comes to you with something like that. In terms of that balance of power, how do you manage the fact that this is something you're so passionate about, it's your baby to a certain extent, with your work wife. How do you manage those difficult commercial conversations when it is something that means so much to you?
Yeah, it's not easy, but I think understanding there's 2 points of view here, right? There's ours and there's also the buyer and the retailer, and they have commercial targets. And so it's trying to find that midpoint that we're both comfortable with. Hoping that they'll meet you in the middle, in the absence of being a huge, large brand with huge marketing budgets. Where else can we offer support? And usually that's with the insights that we have on our consumers that we can share. But also trying to find ways that you can make your buyer's life easier. What are the insights that they need to get these things signed off, by the decision maker? And thinking, sort of having that in the back pocket. What else can we give them beyond just these are the products and these are commercials that they'd find value in? And
I think being a challenger brand, we do offer something different on shelf that the big dogs don't and can't. We are bringing in a new consumer to their store. We are shaking up the whole space. Communicating, positive messages within sexual wellness, for example, using more innovative. We're quick to move. We're a small, lean team. Yes, we don't have the big budgets that Reckitt do, obviously, but we can be a bit guerrilla marketing with it, and we can be fun with it. And social media is our friend. And things can we can like I say, move quickly on campaigns and be a bit cheeky, and that can be really beneficial for the stores as well as us.
Yeah, and I think because we are a lean, small team, but we're super passionate and excited about this, we've given ideas to the retailers that they haven't necessarily tried before with sexual health products. So, our products sit on clip strips in beauty aisles, fem care, deodorant. This is a category that has been stale and hasn't really changed in over 80 years. But we're doing new things that are obviously increasing the basket size for the retailer as well and adding incremental value. We do a bit of trialing and testing with other sales opportunities in the stores.
It's lovely to hear you describe that journey, that the David versus the Goliath, because so many of the things that you've described there, for example, insights versus being able to offer huge marketing pots, your ability to be agile because you're that smaller brand, that what you said, Sarah, there about the idea of being a little bit cheeky, doing the things that the big brands maybe wouldn't quite get away with. These are all such appropriate negotiation behaviours, challenging the variables that you'd normally negotiate with and finding those explorative, creative solutions. It really clearly gives you that free rein to challenge, be that challenger brand. I have in fact seen your products on clip strips, so it's definitely working. What do you think is something that people seem to misunderstand about starting up a new business? And also, what's one thing that your business has done for you as people, as individuals, that you didn't expect it to do?
I think a lot of kind of non-startup friends think they have a good idea about what we do and that it's pretty simple. We have an idea, get product produced, pitch, the money rolls in, pretty simple. But, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we put in a lot of work. It's a real roller coaster day in, day out. We learn a lot every day, meet new people all the time. Farah and myself are not the most stereotypical entrepreneurs. We're not a white man in a SaaS company. And pitching and raising investment is tough. And I think it's something like pence for every pound of VC money goes to female founded companies. So, really kind of up against it in that sense. But yeah, we've sacrificed a lot to build the company because we are so passionate about what we are building, and given up a lot in our previous respective careers. But I think people maybe in finance and medicine didn't realise, they just thought this was a hobby, or because condoms, again, people find it quite funny. It was very difficult to be taken seriously initially, but as we've grown, that's obviously changed. So I think they've seen the years of graft we've put in for Hanks, and that's kind of what's really paid off.
It's quite funny actually, because I remember in the early days people thought that we didn't work and we were just free, and if they had a day off they'd be like, oh well, you can pop out. It's like, no, we actually have a job and we actually need to build a business, and it's not easy, as Sarah said. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, long hours, pulling as much help and resource we can get from the team and advisors. And I think the other thing to add is there is no guidebook here. There's no toolkit that you can go to just start a business and tick a few boxes. You are learning on the job constantly. And that can be anything from packing our very first order for boots with a few pallets on our own, all the way to, operational stuff, building a model, etc. And I think that the thing to also add to that is, Sarah and I do have very different backgrounds, that we're very very skilled, high pressured, but I don't think anything can really prepare you for the entrepreneurial life. It's an absolute roller coaster. You constantly face challenges, no's, pushback, and you have to be resilient and build a thick skin to survive that.
So maybe that first page of that guidebook, Farah, if you were writing it, would be resilient. That's lesson one in the guidebook of being an entrepreneur. Yeah. You mentioned, Sarah, at the beginning there about, the sort of people maybe finding it funny what you're doing. You've gone from this career in obstetrics and gynecology as a practicing doctor into this totally different career. What skills do you think you were able to bring from that world into the entrepreneurial world, other than resilience, as Farah said?
Yeah, absolutely. And resilience, working under high pressure, working long difficult hours, working in a team. So obviously when there's obstetric emergencies, teamwork is super important, as it is in kind of a startup building a business. I think there's as a medic and kind of my gynecological experience as well has been super important in building the products for Hanks. So what ingredients are we using, what not, what do we want the pH of the lubricant to be so it's kind to the vaginal flora and not causing irritation or recurrent thrush or infections, and all of that kind of backing is really informed our new product development and what we do and don't include in our products, and content. So all the kind of medically backed content on our site. We want to be a brand that is legitimate. We're medical devices at the end of the day. We need this needs to be something that people trust. So having that kind of sound medical backing and research is super important. But yeah, I think there's so many skills that have come from in medicine in general that have helped in business. And I've also learned lots from Farah. I did not know how to use an Excel spreadsheet before and now I'd say I'm probably level 2.
I love it.
And it, kind of just building the business, I think, is probably definitely made us better friends. We've been through ups and downs together. We understand how each other leads a company and works under pressure, and super proud of how Farah's pitching for investment a lot, and how she does her role and different so there's so much we've kind of experienced together through building the company as well.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Likewise.
It's really interesting to hear you describe that journey in terms of kind of I've been on your website. You can really feel that passion, that knowledge. You talked about being that challenger brand and that opportunity to be that cheeky brand. It's lovely to see what that brand is all about. So tell me, what's next for your business, and how are you going to use the lessons that you've learned along this journey together to make the next step or the next phase in this journey a success?
Yeah, so we're constantly learning, as I said, and if there's any mistakes we make in the business, we don't see them as mistakes. They're just, okay, right, how do we move forwards and what did we learn from that, and how can we do it better next? In terms of the business, we're at a really exciting stage. So we've spent the last 5 years building trust and authority in the sexual wellness space, which it is mainly archaic and stale, and we have disrupted that. We're the only challenger brand that actually sits on shelf next to these archaic brands, but the most important thing for us is that trust and authority, and the fact that these are, medical devices, and we have a gynae doctor on the co-founding team. Like, that is the ultimate stamp of approval that we are, our products are legitimate and they work. And now that we've been able to build that authority in the space and be that voice for women, we're actually building out other products and services that really connect the milestones of women's health, all the way from your first period to your first time having sex, first child, menopause and beyond, because we don't see that anywhere in the market. A one-stop place where women can, come to our site, whether it's for product, services or content, community and support, which is another part of our site that is really exciting. We've got a chat room, a bit like Mumsnet without your mum, where people can ask for advice, recommendations on anything from fertility, life, relationships, sex, etc.
Yeah, and I think just kind of we've learned that staying close to our customers is super important. So whether that be from surveys to meetups to kind of calling with our most engaged customers, they're the core of what we're building, and we're always listening to them. And they're our focus.
You mentioned trust and authority, and really kind of building that community. It's advice, and it's about keeping the customer at heart. I love that you've talked about that journey as well, the journey that every woman goes through from first period all the way through to menopause. If you were going to give a piece of advice to anybody listening that's running a large organisation that could bring some of the magic that Hanks has with women kind of going on that journey, what do you think? What advice do you think you would give to them?
Listen to your customer. It can literally be as simple as emailing one of your customers and asking how they found the purchase. Could they give any feedback? Our earliest, like our ambassadors of Hanks are often our first ever customers who have come to product development workshops. They've gotten involved and told us what they want next for the brand, etc. And I think I feel like sometimes big corporates aren't as in touch with their consumer, and that's something that I think we've done quite well, and that's ultimately shaped the future of the products that we build and the services we offer.
Well, thank you for that lovely piece of advice to leave us with. It's been wonderful meeting you both. I wish you every success with the next phase. And for anyone who's interested, if you want to get to know more about Hanks, you want to go to HANX, that's hanksofficial.com, to find out more about these incredible products that have been created by Sarah and Farah. So that's everything for us this week, and hopefully see you back here soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.